The Galactic Council chamber was silent. Not peaceful silence, judging silence. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in a wide circle made of floating crystal seats. Each species was different. Some had scales. Some had glowing skin. Some did not even have faces the way humans did. At the center of the chamber stood one human. His name was Ambassador Elias Moore. He was calm, standing with his hands behind his back. No armor. No weapons. Just a simple black uniform. Above him, a massive hologram showed Earth, small, blue, and fragile. The Council was not there to welcome humanity. They were there to judge it. Humans are an unknown risk. That was the first statement spoken. A tall alien with silver eyes floated forward. He was Council Speaker Ziron, one of the oldest beings in the galaxy. Humanity grows too fast, Ziron said. Too many ships. Too many colonies. Too much emotion. Murmurs spread across the chamber. Another alien spoke, this one shaped like a moving shadow. They fight even when logic says they should surrender. A third added, they protect weak members instead of abandoning them. The Council agreed on one thing. Humans did not behave like normal species. The assumption. A biological expert activated a new hologram. It showed a human body, simple, labeled, analyzed. Like all advanced species, the expert said, humans must hatch their young in controlled environments. Several Council members nodded. Eggs were safe. Eggs were efficient. Eggs could be protected by machines. That was how civilized life worked. The expert continued, this explains their population growth. Ambassador Moore did not speak. He only watched. The question. Then a young Council scientist raised a clawed hand. There is one missing detail, she said carefully. Where are the human hatcheries located? The chamber turned toward the human. For the first time, all eyes were on him. Speaker Ziron pointed. Human, he said. Answer. The truth begins. Ambassador Moore took a slow breath. We don't have hatcheries, he said. The chamber reacted instantly. Confused sounds echoed. Several translators blinked, unsure if the sentence was wrong. Ziron narrowed his eyes. You are saying your species produces young without eggs? Yes, Moore replied calmly. The Council laughed. Not loudly. Not cruelly. But with disbelief. That is impossible, someone said. Life must be external to grow safely. Moore lifted his head. Our children grow inside their mothers. Silence. The laughter stopped. Completely. The holograms froze. The scientists stared. Repeat, Speaker Ziron said slowly. Moore did not raise his voice. He did not argue. Human babies grow inside the body, he said. For months. Protected by flesh, blood, and pain. Fear, not mockery. A medical officer whispered. That means the parent is vulnerable for long periods. Another said. That means injury risks the young. The realization spread like cold fire. Humans did not protect life with machines. They used themselves. The silence inside the Galactic Council chamber did not fade. It grew heavier. Alien leaders who once laughed now sat frozen in their crystal seats. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others stared at the human as if he had changed shape. Ambassador Elias Moore remained still at the center. He had expected disbelief. He had not expected fear. But fear was exactly what filled the room. A dangerous way to live. Council Speaker Ziron broke the silence. You are saying, he said slowly, that your species places its unborn young inside a living body, for an extended period of time. Yes, Moore replied. And during this time, Ziron continued, the parent remains active? Yes. Works? Yes. Moves through hostile environments? Yes. A low, uneasy sound passed through the chamber. To the Council, this was not strength. This was madness. The medical panic. A group of alien medical officers gathered near a glowing platform. They began projecting data rapidly, human anatomy, pregnancy records, survival rates. One of them spoke, her voice sharp with disbelief. This method is inefficient, she said. The parent's life is placed at constant risk. Another added, injury to the carrier could end 2 lives at once. A third leaned closer to the display. And yet, he said slowly, humans continue this practice voluntarily. The word voluntarily echoed in the chamber. Why would you do this? Speaker Ziron turned back to Moore. Why? He demanded. Why would your species choose such a fragile process when safer methods exist? Moore did not answer right away. He looked around the chamber. At the alien leaders. At the scientists. At beings who had never known this kind of risk. Because life is not a product to us, Moore said. It is a responsibility. The translators hesitated. The word responsibility did not exist in many languages the same way. A shocking discovery. A young alien council member raised a thin, trembling limb. Human, she said softly. During this time, does the carrier feel pain? Moore nodded. Yes. The chamber reacted sharply. Pain was something most advanced species had removed from reproduction long ago. Another alien asked. Fear? Yes. Permanent damage? Sometimes. The alien's voice shook. And humans still accept this? Moore's answer was quiet. They choose it. The council begins to understand. A military advisor stepped forward, his armor covered in battle marks. This means, he said slowly, your population growth is not automated. No, Moore replied. It cannot be accelerated by factories. No. It cannot be replaced by machines. No. The advisor's eyes narrowed. So every new human life requires sacrifice. Moore did not correct him. A terrifying pattern. The council began connecting the dots. Humans fought harder when civilians were attacked. Humans refused surrender even when losses were high. Humans protected colonies that had no military value. It was not strategy. It was instinct. A council historian spoke aloud, reading ancient records. Species that reproduce through pain often develop extreme protective behaviors. Another added, they value individual lives more deeply. A third whispered, and they react violently when those lives are threatened. The mother data. Without asking permission, a council scientist pulled another file. Human maternal history. Wars fought while pregnant. Evacuations under fire. Mothers shielding children with their own bodies. The images filled the chamber. Aliens looked away. Not because the images were violent, but because they were personal. They are born protected. Speaker Zeron's voice was no longer commanding. It was careful. So from the very beginning, he said, a human life is defended by another life. Yes, Moore said. And this creates emotional bonds? Yes. Strong ones? Yes. Zeron leaned back. That explains it, he murmured. Explains what? Another council member asked. Zeron answered without looking away from the human. Why humans never retreat when families are involved. Fear turns political. A senior council strategist stood. If this is true, she said, then humanity is not dangerous because of weapons. She paused. They are dangerous because they care too much. The room fell silent again. Care was unpredictable. Care made species irrational. Care broke calculations. The hidden threat. An alien general spoke with cold honesty. If we ever threaten human offspring, he said, we will not be fighting soldiers. He looked around the chamber. We will be fighting parents. That sentence carried more weight than any weapon report. Moore speaks again. Ambassador Moore finally stepped forward. You think this makes us weak, he said. But it is the reason we survived. The council listened. When you grow inside another person, Moore continued, you are never alone. No shouting. No drama. Just truth. A cultural divide. A council elder asked carefully, do all humans value their young equally? Moore answered, we argue. We fail. We make mistakes. He paused. But when it matters, we protect them. The elder nodded slowly. That is a dangerous promise, he said. The council's first fearful decision. The council recessed for private discussion. Moore stood alone in the center. Behind closed energy fields, the leaders argued. Contain them. Study them. Limit their expansion. No, observe first. One voice cut through the rest. If they protect their young this fiercely, it said, what will they do for their future? The return. The council reconvened. Speaker Zeron faced Moore again. Humanity has been misunderstood, he said. But understanding does not remove fear. Moore nodded. We understand that, he said. Zeron's eyes glowed. This council will reconsider humanity's classification. That was not a promise. That was a warning. The human medical ship drifted slowly above the blue-white planet of Kelries. From the outside it did not look like a warship. No heavy cannons. No thick armor. Just smooth white metal, soft blue lights, and large windows. Inside, Dr. Maya Chin stood near one of those windows watching the planet below. She had been in space for 8 years. She had treated soldiers, refugees, miners, even aliens from 3 different species. But today her hands were shaking. Not from fear. From anger. The ship had been invited to Kelries after a mining accident injured hundreds of native workers. The local government had no problem accepting human medical help. They only had a problem with how humans lived. Maya adjusted her coat and turned as the door slid open. 3 alien officials entered the room. Tall, thin, pale skin that shimmered like glass. They did not greet her. One of them spoke directly. "We have reviewed your biological data," he said. "Your reproductive method is inefficient." Maya blinked. "That's a strange way to start a conversation," she replied calmly. The alien stepped closer. "You endanger your females," he said. "You weaken them for long periods." Maya felt her jaw tighten. "We don't call them females," she said. "We call them women." The alien paused, clearly confused. "That distinction is irrelevant," he replied. To Maya it was everything. She took a breath. "You asked us here to save lives," she said. "Not to judge ours." The alien official tilted his head. "We must judge," he said. "Your species grows powerful quickly. We need to understand why." Maya laughed softly. Not kindly. "You think power comes from machines," she said. "But you're looking in the wrong place." They followed her down a quiet hallway. Transparent walls showed patients resting inside medical pods. Some were aliens. Some were humans. One pod held a human woman. Pregnant. Her hands rested gently on her stomach. The alien stopped walking. "That is a carrier," one of them said. Maya nodded. "She's a rescue pilot," she said. "Pulled 5 civilians out of a crash zone yesterday." The alien's eyes widened. "She is active?" he asked. "Yes." "And you allow this?" Maya turned to face him fully. "She chooses it," she said. They stared at the woman. Her breathing was steady. Her face calm. The alien official lowered his voice. "If she is harmed," he said, "you lose 2 lives." Maya's voice hardened. "If she is threatened," she said, "you lose everything." They did not understand that yet. They soon would. The next alarm sounded without warning. Red lights flashed across the corridor. Maya turned instantly. "What happened?" she asked. A voice came over the ship's speakers. "Unknown hostile craft entering orbit," the voice said. "Kelry's defense grid is offline." The alien officials froze. "Hostile?" one whispered. Maya was already moving. "Get back," she ordered. "This ship is not a target." But the universe did not care. The impact shook the ship violently. One of the aliens fell to the floor. Maya grabbed the wall to steady herself. Another alarm. "Civilian district hit," the voice said. "Multiple casualties." Maya clenched her fists. She did not ask who attacked. She already knew. She ran toward the medical bay. The pregnant pilot's pod was there. So were dozens of injured civilians. Alien nurses panicked, moving too slowly. Maya stepped in. "Move," she said. "Now." They listened. She worked fast. Orders sharp. And steady. A second impact hit closer. The lights flickered. The pregnant pilot groaned. Maya rushed to her side. "You're okay," Maya said. "I'm here." The woman smiled weakly. "My baby?" she asked. Maya nodded. "Safe." That was all that mattered. Outside the ship, alien defense ships arrived too late. The attackers fled. They always did. After the chaos settled, the alien officials returned. They looked different now. Quieter. Less confident. They had seen humans in crisis. One of them spoke slowly. "You endangered your future," he said. Maya wiped blood from her hands. "No," she replied. "We protected it." The alien hesitated. "You place your most vulnerable at the center of danger," he said. Maya looked at him. "No," she corrected. "We place our strongest there." He did not argue. He could not. He had seen the woman. In pain. Afraid. Still fighting. Later, as the ship prepared to leave orbit, the alien officials stood near the exit. One stopped. "Your species is illogical," he said. Maya smiled tiredly. "We know." As the ship pulled away, the pregnant pilot rested safely, alive. Her child's heart beat steady. The aliens watched from below. For the first time, they understood something frightening. Humans were not brave because they feared death less. They were brave because they loved more. And a species that protects life before it even begins is not a species anyone should try to break. The human fleet had arrived at the edge of a barren system, a string of planets with cracked surfaces and thin atmospheres. Captain Darius Kane stood on the bridge of the Ardent Resolve, one of the fleet's largest vessels. His eyes scanned the star charts, not for enemies but for danger his sensors might have missed. Beside him, Lieutenant Rena Vale monitored communications. The ship's AI pinged with incoming signals from scattered colonies below. Most are intact, she reported. Some structural damage, nothing catastrophic. Kane nodded but said nothing. He did not trust calm voices. Not today. Below them, human engineers had already begun repairs. Small drones zipped through the air, welding broken panels, restoring life support systems. Children, unprotected by any machinery, ran alongside them, clutching makeshift toys. Mothers and fathers worked in shifts, never leaving the young unattended. The aliens observing the planet from a distant research vessel could not understand it. One of them tilted its head, its luminous eyes following the humans below. They expose themselves, it whispered to its companion. They are fragile, unarmored, yet they move confidently into risk. The companion nodded. They are illogical. Their young do not hatch. They are carried, nurtured inside, and yet they bring them into danger willingly. A low hum of confusion passed through the vessel. Back on the Ardent Resolve, Kane walked the lower decks. He passed through corridors filled with soldiers in light armor, carrying supplies to the planet's surface. Their faces were tired, smeared with dust and sweat, but their eyes were sharp, alert. He stopped in front of a small infirmary where a mother cradled a baby in her arms. The child had burns on its face from a nearby reactor malfunction, yet the mother's hands trembled only slightly as she applied healing patches. "You'll live," Kane said softly. "They all will." The mother nodded, her eyes fierce with determination. "They always do. We never give up on them." Outside, a sudden solar flare erupted from the nearby sun. The aliens observing expected panic, collapse, chaos. Instead, they watched humans shield their children with their bodies, reroute power to life support systems, and continue their work as if the flare were nothing. "They adapt," one alien muttered. "They survive despite the environment." "Yes," said its companion. "And they protect the next generation before it is even born. This is a different kind of strength." Kane returned to the bridge. Vale was staring at a monitor. "Captain," she said, voice tight. "Sensors are picking up a disturbance. Not a weapon, something moving on the surface." Kane's brow furrowed. "Show me." A convoy of refugees appeared, barely escaping a collapsing mining tunnel. Mothers carried infants on their backs. Children held each other's hands, running without guidance. Kane felt no fear for them. Not like an outsider might. He felt a fierce pride. "Get the shuttles ready," he said. "We're bringing them all out safely. Every single one." The aliens above could not believe their sensors. "Why?" one asked. "Why risk so much?" They do not see danger the way we do," said the other. "They value life itself over safety, over strategy, over logic." A silence filled their vessel as they observed humans coordinating rescues flawlessly. Children too young to understand danger clung to adults, yet adults moved as if each life were a weapon, a shield, and a treasure all at once. "They fight for their young before birth," the first alien whispered. "And after birth, they fight for every life that belongs to them." On the planet, the final refugees reached the Ardent Resolve's landing bay. Engineers lifted children from their parents' arms, placing them in protective pods for the journey back to the fleet. Mothers and fathers stayed behind, supervising the last drones, checking the stability of shelters, ensuring no one was left behind. Kane watched them silently. These were humans. Ordinary humans. But in every gesture, every choice, they demonstrated an impossible bravery. "They survive," he muttered. "Not because we make them, but because we raise them." The aliens had now altered their observations. They had spent centuries analyzing species by weapons, by speed, by armor, by numbers. None of their calculations had prepared them for humans. "They are born fragile," the first alien said. "Yet they become unbreakable. And they teach the next generation," the second alien added. "Every human child is trained by love, by responsibility, by survival itself. Not by instruction manuals, not by technology, by life." The first alien made a sound unfamiliar to human ears. It was awe, fear, confusion, respect. Kane turned from the window, watching the shuttles lift off. Vale came to his side. "Captain, they're still watching us." He smiled faintly. "Let them watch. They will not understand. Not yet. But they will see what humans do when they refuse to surrender." The fleet departed the planet with all lives accounted for. Even the injured were stabilized, even the weakest had survived. From orbit, humans looked tiny, insignificant. Yet from above, their actions screamed louder than any fleet of warships ever could. The aliens observed the retreating fleet in silence. "They are not ordinary," one said. "They are guardians. Born not to hatch but to protect. Born not to fear but to endure. Born to survive against everything." On board the ardent Resolve, Kane allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. "We raise them," he whispered to himself. "Not because it is easy. Not because it is convenient. But because every life is worth it. Every single one." Vale looked at him, understanding without words. In that silence, the ship continued its journey. A fleet of ordinary humans, perhaps small in number, yet mighty in resolve. And somewhere far above, alien minds recalculated everything they thought they knew about life, strength, and survival. For the first time in galactic history, the next generation of humans was seen as more dangerous than any weapon they could ever create. The planet Verilia hung silently in the darkness of space, a frozen world of jagged mountains and ice-choked valleys. Human survey teams had been sent ahead to establish research stations. They were unarmed, lightly equipped, and entirely reliant on skill, cooperation, and endurance. Lieutenant Rena Vale led a small squad through the ice fields. Her breath formed clouds in the frigid air, and each step crunched sharply on brittle snow. Ahead, the faint glow of a research dome appeared, half buried in drifting ice. It had sustained structural damage during a recent storm, and the team had been sent to secure it. Inside the dome, alarms were already blaring. Panels flickered, warning of failing temperature regulators and broken life support systems. 2 human scientists were struggling to stabilize a group of native Verilian children. They were pale, shivering, and terrified. Vale dropped her pack and immediately joined them, adjusting the life support jackets, lifting children to warm areas, and checking their vitals. The aliens observing from orbit could not comprehend what they were seeing. "They handle their young in extreme conditions," one whispered, a note of incredulity in its voice. "They do not retreat. They do not hesitate. They protect life without hesitation." Outside, a sudden icequake rattled the dome. Metal groaned. Snow poured in from cracks in the walls. "Get them out," Vale shouted. "Move the children to the safe pods." The team scrambled. Small shuttles hovered nearby, beams of light piercing the frozen darkness. Every second counted. Every child mattered. A scientist, trembling, froze in place as a fissure opened beneath him. Vale grabbed his arm, yanking him back. "We move together," she yelled. The aliens above were silent. "They risk everything for lives that are not even their own species," one said. "They are not logical." "No," replied the other. "They are not weak. They are guardians. They understand something we do not." Vale's team had managed to gather all the children and were heading to the shuttle bay when a sudden ice collapse blocked their path. Massive shards of frozen rock and metal fell, cutting off the exit. Panic would have been normal for any other species. For humans, it was a call to action. "We make a path," Vale shouted. The squad activated portable cutting tools, slicing through debris, working with precision and speed. A young recruit, barely 18, looked frightened. Vale crouched beside him. "You can do this," she said simply. "We do this together. We always protect the weak." The recruit nodded, determination sparking in his eyes. Hours passed. Sweat froze on their skin. Fingers bled. The wind howled, threatening to knock them over. Yet every human kept moving. Every human protected life. Every human endured. By the time the last child was loaded onto the shuttle, the dome had partially collapsed. The research team had saved hundreds of lives, but at a cost. 2 humans were injured and 1 was trapped under debris. Vale did not hesitate. She went back into the wreckage alone, using her strength and knowledge to free the trapped engineer. When she emerged, covered in ice and blood, the shuttle commander smiled grimly. "You always risk yourselves." Vale shook her head. "We protect them," she said. "That's what makes us human." The aliens observing the mission were stunned. "They risk death for others?" one whispered. "For those who cannot protect themselves?" "Yes," replied the other. "And they do it because they value life, not strategy, not honor, not conquest. Life itself is sacred to them. That is their strength." Back on the shuttle, Vale checked the children. They were crying, scared but alive. Mothers and fathers, rescued from the frozen valleys, held their young tightly. A father looked at Vale, his hands trembling. "You saved them," he said. Vale smiled tiredly. "No," she corrected. "They saved themselves. We just made sure they had a chance." The shuttle began its ascent. Below, the broken dome glimmered like a wounded giant. The aliens watched the human actions replay in their analytical minds. They survive through cooperation, one said. Through sacrifice. Through enduring hardship for those weaker than themselves. They do not see survival as individual, the other whispered. They see it as collective. Life belongs to all and they protect it fiercely. Above the clouds, Vale looked out the viewport. Stars stretched infinitely in every direction. She allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. Hundreds of lives had been saved today. She had seen fear, despair, and exhaustion. And yet, she had also seen courage, hope, and determination. This was humanity. Fragile, imperfect, yet indomitable. They will never break us, she murmured. Because every human life is worth protecting, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is dangerous, even when it is impossible. The alien vessel, still observing, emitted a sound no human could understand. It is frightening, one said finally. They are fragile, it continued, and yet unbreakable. They protect the weakest, endure the impossible, and survive where logic predicts failure. They are not just strong. They are relentless. Yes, said the other. And that is why we fear them, not for what they can destroy but for what they refuse to lose. As the shuttle returned to the main fleet, Vale spoke quietly to the team. Every child we save today, she said, is the reason tomorrow will be ours. Every life matters. Every life is worth the risk. And somewhere, far above in orbit, alien observers recalculated everything they thought they knew about life, resilience, and the strength of the human spirit. Humans were small. Humans were fragile. Humans could be wounded, exhausted, or broken. But humans, above all, were unforgiving protectors of life itself. And that made them unstoppable. The void ahead was silent, dark, and cold. The human fleet glided like silver arrows against the black canvas of space. Stars shimmered faintly, distant and indifferent. Captain Darius Kane stood on the bridge of the Ardent Resolve, his hands resting lightly on the console. Sensors had picked up anomalies hours earlier, strange energy signatures that suggested ships, not storms, moving through the sector. He had a sinking feeling. Lieutenant Rena Vale came up beside him, scanning the readings. "Captain," she said, voice tight, multiple fast-moving objects approaching. "Not scanning us. Weapons online." Kane's jaw tightened. "They're coming for civilians." Vale looked at him, eyes wide. "We can't outrun them all." "We don't need to outrun them," Kane said. "We protect. That's what we do." The first alien attack vessel appeared. Its hull shimmered with strange energy, reflecting starlight. Its shape was angular, unlike anything humans had built. Yet its purpose was obvious: destruction. Human fighters launched immediately. Sleek, fast ships streaked out from the fleet, weaving through the void like hunting falcons. The aliens fired energy blasts. Ships shuddered. Shields flared. Explosions lit the darkness. Still, human pilots pressed forward. In the Ardent Resolve's command center, engineers worked feverishly to redistribute power. Life support, weapons, shields, everything was being rerouted dynamically. "You're overloading the main reactor," shouted one technician. "Do it," Kane snapped. "If we lose power for a second, every child on board dies. Every life counts. Every life." The technicians obeyed, fingers moving in perfect coordination. Sparks flew. Alarms screamed. But the system held. Outside, a small alien fighter breached the fleet perimeter. It dove straight toward a shuttle carrying injured civilians. Vale's eyes narrowed. "I'm going after it." She climbed into her fighter, voice calm over comms. "I've got this." The alien ship fired. Vale dodged instinctively, moving through debris and plasma. She fired a pulse cannon, hitting the alien hull. It erupted in a bright explosion. On the shuttle, humans cheered softly, relief mixing with fear. They had seen death come close. They had seen destruction almost claim them. Yet humans were never paralyzed by fear. They acted. Kane monitored the battle from the bridge. Another wave of enemy ships approached, bigger this time. Larger, more heavily armed. "Deploy the drones," Kane ordered. "Shield the shuttles. Focus fire on their engines. Make every shot count." The human fleet responded instantly. Drones zipped around enemy vessels, creating confusion. Pulse beams disabled engines. Shuttles slipped through the chaos. Every action was calculated, yet seemingly chaotic to an outside observer. From orbit, alien observers watched in astonishment. "They are protecting their weak," one whispered. "They are small yet coordinated. Their fighters act as extensions of the lives they protect." "Yes," said the other. "And every life they save fuels their strength. They fight not for territory, not for conquest. They fight for the fragile. For those who cannot fight. That is terrifying. Back on the Ardent Resolve, Vale had taken down 3 more alien fighters. Her hands were steady, her eyes focused. Yet she remained aware of the lives on the shuttle she had escorted. One of the children aboard whimpered. Vale adjusted a seat harness gently. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe now. We'll get everyone home." Humans always noticed the small things, the frightened child, the injured parent, the vulnerable survivor. That attention to life, to detail, made them unpredictable. Unbreakable. Kane watched as another alien frigate closed in. Its energy weapons flared, targeting a convoy of supply ships. "Fire the ion nets," he said calmly. "We're not just fighting them, we're rewriting the rules." Drones released strands of electrified plasma, wrapping around the alien frigate. Its engines sputtered. Panic erupted among its pilots. The human fleet pressed the advantage, disabling the ship without destroying it entirely. The aliens' own strategy depended on terror. Humans disrupted that. Humans protected. Humans adapted. After hours of combat, the enemy withdrew, retreating into deep space. The human fleet had suffered minor damages, but no lives were lost. Kane exhaled, finally allowing himself a moment of relief. Vale came up beside him, breathing heavily. "They underestimated us," she said. "They thought weapons were the answer," Kane replied. "They never understood what drives us." Below decks, medics were already tending to minor injuries. The pregnant pilot from Verilia checked on children, gently reassuring them. Mothers and fathers were present, helping wherever they could, ensuring their young remained safe. Humans never left anyone behind. Not in battle. Not in disaster. Not ever. Alien observers, silent for hours, now spoke again. "They survived when every logical calculation predicted failure," one said. "They fight not because they are fearless, but because they refuse to abandon the weak." "Yes," said the other. "And they grow stronger with every risk, every sacrifice. Every life they protect is a weapon we cannot counter. That is why we fear them, not for what they destroy but for what they preserve." Kane looked at the stars beyond the bridge viewport. He knew the enemy would return. They always did. But humans had shown something far more important than firepower. They had shown willpower, ingenuity, and an unshakable determination to protect life. And that was a weapon no alien could ever fully understand. Vale spoke softly beside him. "They don't just survive. They endure, for each other." Kane nodded. "Exactly. That's how humans win, not because we destroy but because we refuse to lose." The fleet moved forward, leaving the battlefield behind. Above them, alien minds recalculated again. Humans were fragile. Humans were small. Yet humans, in their imperfection and vulnerability, had become unstoppable. And somewhere deep in the stars, the first real fear of humanity took root. The battle-scarred fleet drifted near the asteroid belt of Zephyria, a chaotic field of rocks and ice drifting through space. Captain Darius Kane stood on the bridge of the Ardent Resolve, staring at the swirling masses. Sensors pinged constantly. Every asteroid, every shard of ice, every movement in the belt could become a hazard, or an opportunity. "Incoming vessels," Lieutenant Rena Vale said, her fingers flying over the controls. 3 squadrons. Heavy shields. Weapons primed. "They've learned from the last attack." Kane's lips pressed into a thin line. "Good. That means we have the advantage." Vale tilted her head. "Advantage? They outnumber us 3-1. He nodded. "Yes. But we fight differently. We protect differently. That's our advantage." On the lower decks, engineers and medics moved efficiently. Broken systems were patched, minor injuries treated, supplies distributed. Human soldiers checked their weapons, but their focus was on the civilians, on the children, the pregnant pilots, the elders. Every human knew the rules. Life first, everything else second. The first alien squadron entered the asteroid belt. Massive triangular hulls gleamed as they adjusted to the gravitational turbulence. Energy weapons glowed bright against the darkness. Kane's voice cut across the bridge. "All fighters deploy. Use the asteroids for cover. Keep civilians safe." Human fighters darted between the rocks, moving in unpredictable patterns. The aliens fired, but the shots scattered harmlessly. "Impressive coordination," Vale said quietly. "They're using the environment as an extension of their fleet." Kane nodded. "We're small but clever. That's human ingenuity." Meanwhile, on the surface of Zephyria's largest moon, a small team of human engineers prepared mobile defense units. They were fragile machines, barely armored, but packed with sensors and adaptive weapons. Lieutenant Jax Moreno spoke into his communicator. The fleet is engaged. Once they pass, we'll ambush the rear. Keep civilians in the dome. Every life counts. The aliens monitoring the surface frowned. Their calculations assumed the humans would retreat, but humans never retreated. The battle in the asteroid field escalated. Alien ships fired in waves, attempting to overwhelm the human fleet. Yet every human pilot seemed to anticipate moves not by calculation, but by observation and instinct. One fighter weaved through a canyon of jagged asteroids, using the rocks as a shield while disabling an alien engine with a precise ion pulse. Another pilot, barely visible through smoke and debris, drew multiple alien ships into a trap, where automated drones disabled their navigation systems. The aliens realized too late that humans did not fight predictably. Every human action protected life while maximizing impact. On board the Ardent Resolve, Kane adjusted the fleet's formation. Pull the shuttles close. Drones in front, fighters on the flanks. Civilians never exposed. Vale scanned the incoming ships. Captain, they're trying a pincer maneuver. Kane smiled faintly. Let them. We've already predicted it, but not with sensors. With humans. Every move they make, we anticipate because we know what matters most. The alien squadrons collided with the asteroid field, their formations breaking as humans used the rocks, debris and unpredictability of the terrain to their advantage. Missiles detonated prematurely. Beams misfired. Alien coordination fell apart. They adapt, instantly, one alien whispered, eyes wide. They think differently. Their weak are protected. Their strong are unbreakable. We cannot anticipate them. Yes, said the other. We can destroy ships, but we cannot destroy their resolve. That is frightening. On Zephyria's surface, Moreno's team activated the mobile defense units. The units fired electromagnetic pulses, disabling alien ships that attempted to flank the fleet. Human engineers moved alongside them, checking each device, repairing broken circuits even under enemy fire. One alien pilot attempted to ram a shuttle carrying injured civilians. Moreno saw it and fired the last operational pulse unit, causing the alien ship to spiral into an asteroid. Civilians remained unharmed. The alien commanders, observing from orbit, were silent. Logic had failed them. Their strategies based on numbers, speed and firepower had no effect. Humans protected life first, attacked when necessary and adapted constantly. They are unpredictable, one said. Yes, the other replied. But it is not chaos. It is purpose. Every human action is tied to survival and protection. That is terrifying. Back on the Ardent Resolve, Kane spoke over the fleet comms. All units regroup. Focus on civilians. Protect the weak. Neutralize threats where necessary. Remember, no life is expendable. That is how humans win. The fleet moved as one. Not with mechanical precision, but with a fluid, living coordination. Humans anticipated risk before it occurred. They adapted faster than the aliens could calculate. They preserved life better than the aliens could predict. Hours passed. Energy reserves were low. Hulls were damaged. Fighters limped home with scorch marks on their wings. But every civilian survived. Every injured human or alien who had been rescued was accounted for. The alien observers finally spoke aloud. They survive where failure was certain, one said. They turn defense into offense, but not for conquest. They do it to protect others. They are more dangerous than we imagined. Yes, said the other. Their strength is not in weapons. It is in their values. Every life matters. And they will not compromise that. Kane allowed himself a moment of quiet. He looked out the viewport at the fleeing enemy ships. Vale stood beside him, exhausted but steady. They'll come again, she said. Yes, Kane replied. And we'll be ready. Not because we can destroy them, but because we will never let them harm the weak again. Humans had turned the tide. Not through sheer power. Not through sheer numbers. Through resolve. Through ingenuity. Through love for each other. And somewhere, in the darkness of space, the first real understanding settled in alien minds. Humans were a species that could never be broken because they valued life more than fear, more than logic, more than themselves. As the fleet moved towards safety, civilians safe and shuttles intact, Kane whispered to himself almost as a vow. We fight for life, because life is what makes us human. And no one in any corner of the galaxy will ever take that from us. The stars stretched endlessly before them. And in every human heart aboard the fleet, a simple truth burned bright. They would endure. They would protect. They would rise, no matter the odds. The human fleet drifted into the outer orbit of Verilia Prime, a peaceful planet that had watched the conflict from afar. Civilians aboard the ships clutched children, hugged parents, and quietly assessed the damages. Captain Darius Kane stood on the bridge of the Ardent Resolve, silent for a moment. Every life had been preserved. Every child was safe. Every adult accounted for. The fleet had faced impossible odds, and survived. Beside him, Lieutenant Rena Vale checked the systems. Shuttles were ready to land. Repairs could be made. Morale was high. The humans were exhausted, but they were unbroken. On the surface, refugees watched the shuttles descend. Mothers held children tightly, whispering reassurance. Fathers scanned the horizon for threats that were no longer there. The survivors had endured storms, attacks, and chaos, but humans had prevailed, not through destruction but through protection and courage. Far above, the alien observers had retreated to a distant station. They had followed the fleet for days, watching, analyzing, and failing to understand the humans. One alien turned to the other, voice low and almost fearful. "They are not weapons," it said. "They are something we cannot measure. Their strength is in what they protect, not what they destroy." The other nodded slowly. "And that is what makes them unstoppable." For the first time in centuries, the aliens reconsidered their calculations. Numbers, firepower, and strategy could no longer predict humanity's actions. Humans were guided by something alien, unpredictable, and infinitely powerful: the will to preserve life at all costs. On board the Ardent Resolve, Kane finally allowed himself to relax. He moved to the viewport, watching the planet below. Every shuttle landing safely. Every civilian unharmed. Every child smiling despite the fear they had endured. Vale approached him quietly. "We did it," she said. "Yes," Kane replied, voice calm. "Not because we destroyed them, but because we protected what mattered." The pregnant pilot from Verilia stepped onto the landing platform, her baby safe and strong. She smiled at Kane and Vale. "We survived because of humans," she said softly. "We survived because you never let us go." Kane nodded. "Every life is worth protecting. That is humanity. That is why we endure." Across the stars, alien ships recorded the final moments of the human fleet. They did not understand it fully. They could record, calculate, and simulate, but the unpredictability of humans could not be contained in data. "They are more than a species," one alien whispered. "They are guardians. Born fragile, yet raised to endure. Born defenseless, yet trained to protect. Born human, and that is why the galaxy should fear them, respectfully but profoundly." The humans celebrated quietly. There was no grand parade. No boastful speeches. No desire to dominate. They celebrated life. Every life. Their victory was in safety, survival, and the bonds they had strengthened. Kane looked at Vale. "We do not raise soldiers. We do not raise conquerors. We raise humans. That is the strength of our species." Vale nodded. "And that is why no enemy can truly break us." From orbit, the alien observers transmitted their report back to their homeworlds. Every calculation had been wrong. Every assumption overturned. Humans could not be underestimated. They could not be controlled. "They fight for what we discard as weak," the first alien said. "They survive where logic predicts failure. They win because they value life above all." "Yes," replied the other. "And that is terrifying. Respect it. Respect them. Fear them, but respect them." As the fleet set course for their next mission, children laughed, mothers held them close, fathers repaired equipment, and soldiers checked systems. But everyone knew the same truth: humans endure because they protect life. They thrive because they care. They fight because they refuse to lose what matters. The stars stretched endlessly, but humanity's light burned brighter than ever. And in the hearts of those who had watched, who had underestimated, and who had feared them, one simple fact became undeniable. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were a force born from love, courage, and protection. A force that the galaxy would never forget.